I don't have my tea, so this one's going to be particularly short. I'm having a so FYI, as long as my throat holds out. Hey, what's up, Chauncey? Long time, man. Long time. You got an alert, so they're not suppressing my I'm just trying to change the setting on Facebook, and then we're ready. We're ready. It's good to hear from you, bro. Since I can't get a call, I guess I'll start just jumping on live when I need to talk to you, Chauncey. But this is a Q&A with BroDiallo. Normally, I've started having guests on as Q&A. We're supposed to get Chauncey on here as a Q&A on atheism and other topics. Still waiting. But I ain't trying to stress you, homie. I know you a busy man. But, you know. But anyway. Welcome. This is, of course, BroDiallo Q&A. We do them Wednesdays, generally Wednesdays at 8 p.m. But since I started having guests, if they can't accommodate that time, I'm willing to switch. But generally Wednesdays we do Q&A with BroDiallo. This is like our 30th or something. You know, we've been doing it for a minute, so I appreciate that. But it's not strictly a Q&A. We're open to questions, comments, and criticisms. But you asked me a topic. We do have a focus, a particular focus topic, which is Black manhood and masculinity. Just in case someone wanted to. Happy birthday, Amato. Happy birthday, bro. Just in case someone wanted to ask questions about the things I said, which some might be controversial things I said about manhood and masculinity at the last BroDiallo broadcast on Monday. So I'm open to that, but of course it's wide open. You don't have to stick to the topic of the Q&A, but those who ask questions related to the Q&A will get priority. That's how we do. All right, Chauncey starting it off, asking about the Kirk Franklin fiasco. Let me just fade that on out, get the music out of the way. Here are my thoughts on the Kirk Franklin fiasco. What I said about it, of course, you know, I went and tweeted or posted about it somewhere on social media. I said, everybody loves Christianity until some Christian shit happens. Kirk Franklin is not just a Christian. He is what is called a propagator of the religion. He is a man who has accepted the mandate from God to go out and spread the religion through music. He has a music ministry or a music gospel. And the gospel is not just the good news. It is embedded in the concept that if you are a true Christian, if you have truly accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, and you believe that God is omnipotent, omnipresent, and omnibenevolent, and all powerful, then your responsibility is to go out and take his word as far as you can to engage in discipleship. And Kirk Franklin is one of the most successful propagators of the gospel through the means of modern music. So I don't understand, for those who criticize Kirk Franklin, a lot of people are supporting him. A lot of people are happy with it. But for those who criticize Kirk Franklin, if you are a Christian, your fundamental religion, your God, has informed you that a disobedient child can be put to death with the full blessing of your Lord and Savior, your God manifest in the flesh in the form of Jesus, or God in his and the Holy Ghost, the three who are one and the one who are three, allows for you to kill that child that is disobedient. So if you define yourself as a Christian, if you identify as a Christian, if you believe Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, then you have no right to criticize him on moral grounds, on ideological grounds, in terms of techniques, all that set aside. Christianity is a religion that allows for the father in particular to literally kill your child. So everything beneath killing them, beating them, shunning them, God cast off. God allowed his own son to be tortured to death. He didn't have to. God is omnipotent, meaning God could have forgiven us without doing anything. God didn't have to go through the blood sacrifice of his own son, but he did. So getting cursed out is a lot less than being crucified on the cross, tortured, given vinegar for water. So my ultimate saying is everybody loves Christianity until some Christian shit happens. And I think that Kirk Franklin is sinning, is violating his edict, his belief to apologize for what he did, because what he did not but you notice, if you go back, if I remember properly, if you go back and look at his apology, he apologized for the profanity, so because I guess he couldn't curse. So you can threaten your child's life and even taking your child's life. But beyond that, I think it was consistent. So I think if you're going to criticize what Kirk Franklin did, you have to do it in the context. You have to criticize him in the context of what he believes and what he claims to stand for. And he didn't violate his religion in threatening his son's life or actually taking actions to kill his sons. And in fact, if you're willing to do the research, there are dozens just recently of instances where people have murdered their own children and said that it was God's mandate. I saw a YouTube video at one time that which was a whole list, a documentary about people who killed their children because they felt that they were either demon possessed or refused to walk in the proper light of the Lord. So infanticide, or killing your own children, has always been an accompaniment of Christian, from torturing and killing your own children. When your God tortures and kills their own child, I mean, and you're supposed to be a living embodiment. So that's that. Now he asks, but how does a Pan-African deem his actions? I deem his actions to be anti-African. The fact that he goes around the world and is one of the most successful propagators of Christianity and spreading Christianity. I'm not surprised about what he said. But when I first heard that Kirk Franklin cursed his child, I was like, damn, but not surprised. But when I heard that his son was 33 years old, my son just turned 18. And I look at my son as a man, an adult man. And I am training myself because due to COVID, he was supposed to move. Not only was he moving out of my home, he was scheduled to move out of state to go to college. But because of COVID and the quarantine, he stayed back, and we reworked his, I'm not going to put his business in the street, but he's been here several months longer than he anticipated, and will start attending the university from home instead of leaving the state to attend his original university that he was applying to for safety reasons. And just, to be able to make up for some time that he lost because he's a member of the class of 22. But all that aside, I'm learning to relate to my son as an adult versus a child. So I can't really talk about it. I have to look at the Kirk Franklin thing. And then being an adult male myself, and my relationship to my elders, my fathers, my father, I did have more than one father figure, literally and figuratively. But I would imagine if my son, my adult son, and I's relationship became to the point where I felt that I had to talk to him like that, I would simply shun him. If he's an adult, I would simply, not interact with them. I mean, that's how I do with any other man I have beef. There's brothers out here I don't get along with, I have beef with. I ain't about to go curse and threaten him. I try to look just like, listen, I'm going to respect my son as a man. So before I'm telling some man I'll hurt you or this or that, and I don't like to use the rationale ever to my son, respect me because I'm your father. My position is respect what's respectable and disrespect what's not respectable. So I've never used the rationale, even when he was a child, that, hey, I'm your father, therefore. I don't think that's an acceptable rationale for respecting an individual or to following what I tell him to do. So everything that I tell my son that I've imparted or try to explain to my son, being a Pan-Africanist, but also a humanist and an atheist, his morality and his obligations to me, familial or societal, are based in reason and logic. And by the time we're like, I'll choke you or I'll kill you, I would just stop talking to him. I have relatives, close relatives, that I don't talk to anymore. I have friends that I stopped talking to because I felt by the time I get to that level with another adult, whether they're related to me or not. But I think that as fathers, we need to respect our adult children as adults. I think we have to stop. I'm your father. I didn't say I'm your father even when they were children. So I definitely, as a man, if he's doing something I don't agree with, and I'm like, yo, Aromo, yo, I didn't raise you like that or whatever. And he was like, I'm going to do me, step off. I'd be like, and I'd be there to catch him if he fell, or if he came prodigal son. I keep using these biblical references. And if he came back and was like, yo, but another thing is, I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but my sister and all my family members, my son's aunt, they call my kids the kids who cuss. My sister, whenever she would take my son out, my oldest son, when he was young, she said whenever she went out with her little nephew and take him somewhere, she'd have to warn other adults that this baby cusses. That's what she would always say. This baby cuss. Every time I take my nephew out, I got to tell him this baby cuss, because we curse, because there's really no curse word. A curse is a supernatural thing. So my son, if he hurt his knee, he'd say shit. He didn't say the hard words, but he would, that was one of his favorite words, even coming up. And when I would hear my young children curse, I didn't really trip, because curses, being, again, atheist, there's no curse words. And if you say the bad word in the proper context, if you skin your knee and you're like, oh shit, my knee, his mother and I, for better or for worse, didn't. So my sons, when they, like my sons, when they were little, they'd curse and we'd curse around them. We were kind of ourselves around them. In fact, my parenting philosophy, if you want to know how to be a good father, my parenting philosophy is be there and be yourself, because they got half your chromosomes. So whatever you are, they half of you. So, if you're going to model, they can't escape it. So it's funny that people are like, oh, he cursed. It's not really the curse. So it's a big difference between saying, my son overhearing me talk and do these radio shows, and I might say shit or what the fuck, and him overhearing me say that, versus me turning to him and like, I'll fucking rip your head off. That's two different things. So we are not really in the Kenyatta household really prudish people, his mother and I, or we'd even play, like, we used to take a lot of road trips and we'd play rap songs with cursing in it. And then my son now, both of my sons, I have a adolescent and a young adult. They play words with curse words. So the cursing, it was funny that he apologized for the cursing, and that wasn't the problem. It's the order in which you put those curse words is what you suggested you would do. But I would think with an adult son, I mean, I don't think most people have to be informed about if it was an adolescent or a young child. But with an adult son, by the time y'all about to go head up and go fist to fist, I would say just get away from the dude. Get away from him. Like I said, I had an uncle who, he and I didn't get along at all. He's passed away since, and it was so hostile that I didn't even go to his funeral. In fact, my grandmother told me, later, it's like, I know when your uncle passed, I didn't even bother to call you because I knew you guys were been in beef since I was a little kid. And before I go to him and tell him I'm gonna rip his head off, I just stay away. And by the time you're 33 and you're not under their house, and you just don't like who that person is. I know my father has a great issue with my reject and my anti-Islam views, because I think that Islam is an anti-African religion that has enslaved African people and has a lot to answer for in terms of Africans. And I don't think any person of African descent should be a Muslim. And I know I've just pissed off millions of black people all over the world. My father, who's been a Muslim since maybe 17, 18, he doesn't like that. And when I talk to him, we don't discuss Islam. I mean, he says assalamu alaikum, I say wa alaikum assalam, and that's as far as we go with Islam in order to not beef. So, but I got my home, he got his home, he has his wife, I got my wife, he has his space and his life and his social circle, I got mine. So what's the point of fighting? We come together when we can come together under positive things, and we break apart when we can't on the things we can't. I don't understand, by the time you're not under the same roof, you know, even getting counseling. I know y'all love counseling, but I'm like, for what? You know, if my wife and I just couldn't see eye to eye, we get counseling, but to me, it's more of an opportunity to highlight the fact that Christianity is anti-family. Even Jesus said, I came to split the turn father against son. Jesus said, y'all want me to pull up the verse so I ain't gonna pretend like I know it by heart. Came to divide. Let's pull that up since we here. We got the technology. Luke 14, chapter 12, verse 49 to 56. I have come to set the world on fire. Let me see, just so y'all won't think I screen share. We do it big on the BroDiallo show. Hold on, let me just do screen share. But anyway, that's how I would have handled. Like if it was an adolescent or a young child, a dependent child, it's one way. But within a 33-year-old, I wish I would argue. Like I said, I don't argue. I was just talking to my son about his travel plans and the vaccine, and my wife and I were talking, and we were asking him, so what do you intend to do? You know, so we'll give him all the guidance he wants, but now he's our partner. You know, we work with him in terms of his life plans and goals and his development. We don't dictate to him. But some people say we were always too, how do I zoom in here? Just work with me. I'm sorry. Well, I can make it large. But Jesus, can y'all see that? I can see it from my end. Jesus said, father will be divided against son, and son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother, and mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against God. Jesus said, I have come to set the world on fire, and I wish it to already be burning. You know, Jesus came to divide. Jesus caused division. This is the New Living Translation, but you go to Luke 12, 14 to 56, whatever King James version. If you're Baptist, go to the Douay Bible. If you're a Catholic, it's some iteration of this. So people cursing out and wanting to kill their kids is not anti-Christian. That's what your religion is. You can get mad if you want. I didn't write that Bible. I don't promote that Bible. I don't support that Bible. I don't believe that Bible. But if you come to me and claim that my Lord, I'm just going to hold you to what you claim to believe. I don't know. I'm probably all over the place. But that's my answer, Chauncey. Chauncey said that was specific. I was getting that bitch ass nigga being beyond protocol for, bitch ass nigga. I guess I didn't. I have to confess either. I need to stop talking about shit I don't know about. I didn't even listen to the whole statement. I didn't follow it. You know, me, what I'm going to do is just look for the larger context. You know, I didn't really get in. I don't like celebrities. I love artists. I love entertainers, but I don't like celebrities. So I didn't listen to the whole thing. I heard the rip your head off stuff. So I'm trying to look at the larger things, but specific words, calling his son a bitch ass nigga, them's just fighting words. But I don't know. Let me not talk slick like if my father said that to me. I don't know. I haven't had those interactions with my father, you know. And my father figure, shout out to Uncle Chris, who and my grandpa Bowie. I was a knucklehead. I was crazy. I was wild, skipping school, all the stuff, wayward at risk youth get up to. And they would yell at me. They would be perplexed. They were like, 1 minute, I would literally, when I was in high school, 1 week I'd be starring in a Shakespearean play. The next week I'm, skipping school down at the railroad vandalizing trains. And they didn't really understand. 1 minute I'm being pro-black and black power, and the next minute I'm stealing G.I. Joes from Sears surplus. So I was kind of all over the place, a walking contradiction. And so they would be perplexed, and I would feel and see their frustration, And even one time I was falsely accused of arson. And, my grandmother called Uncle Chris over to set me straight. But he never went as far as like, you bitch ass nigga, I'm going to rip your head off. I'm going to kill you. I can't relate to them actions. But I would like to imagine, man, even to my son, I laugh at, when we have problems, when we're bickering about something, and I say, well, you want to glove up and put on the boxing glove. And a couple of times we have put on the boxing gloves, and we have these combat sticks and Nerf guns. We fought it out with Nerf guns and padded staffs and boxing gloves, but it's never been out of like real fighting. So I can't relate to them actions. But I mean, I don't know. What the hell did his son even do to him? But again, any level of this, God didn't specify high, but I mean, God has killed kids for making fun of bald heads. God has literally sent bears to kill children for harassing his prophet, and by harassing him, saying he had a bald head. So God don't play. God cursed Ham, and Ham didn't do nothing but look at his father's penis when his father was in a drunken stupor. And God cursed Ham and all of his descendants. God cursed Adam and all. That's a religion that fucking hates children. So if a man is a Christian and says, I'm going to kill my child, how are we surprised or even having a debate about this? I'm like, smells like, if it walks like a Christian, talks like a Christian, sings corny ass songs like a Christian, that is Christianity. And I wish that we would push that in, saying this is what our oppressors, this is the religion they indoctrinated us into. But moving on. What's up, Carl, man? What's up, man? In your last video, you said that black men supported Trump. It's only a small percentage of black men that supported him. Why put that on us? Well, if the shoe fits, man, I need my tea. If the shoe fits, I was talking about even though it's a small percent, it's way too big. I mean, it's way too big than it should have been. I mean, Trump is an overt racist. You can't even say like the Democrats, they give lip service. The Democrats pretend to give a damn about us. So you can't say those black men any black man supporting Trump was supporting a white man who is overtly racist. And even the black men who don't support Trump, let's say like Dr. Umar, and the black men who don't support it are too radical to support the Trumps or the Democrats. For the black men who supports Trump in terms of electoral politics, but there's also black men who support Trump. The Trump mentality and the Trump ideology is very common. What is Trump all about? What does Trump really stand for? He's a chauvinist. Besides the racist, he's a lot besides. He's patriarchal, he's chauvinist, he's about securing the bag. So I see a lot of elements in Trump that I see in a lot of black leaders. So I didn't put it on us. I didn't say that black men got Trump elected. I didn't say that black men are responsible for Trump. I said black men supported Trump, and there's a lot of characteristics in Trump and even in the right wing and Christian evangelicalism and the other chauvinistic, paternalistic, sexist elements of the dominant society black men support and participate in. And that's what I was pointing out. But and Trump has, I mean, Trump is one of the most quoted people in black hip hop. And I don't mean the song Fuck Donald Trump, rest in peace, Nipsey. I mean, throughout my life, you know, as a young child, Trump was the embodiment of a baller. 50 Cent, I mean, Lil Wayne, you know, you Google Trump and almost any black celebrity. Y'all name a black celebrity from the 80s. Trump. And let's see. Here, let's look at this. Let's do this. See, y'all gonna have me abusing screen share. Let's put it up here. Y'all want to be mad at me for saying black men supported Trump? Black men love him some Trump. Here's Trump and Muhammad Ali. Here's Trump and Jesse Jackson. You know, here's Trump and Muhammad Ali. What y'all want from me? Name another black man. I know y'all know Mike Tyson, all the boxers. Name your favorite rapper. And we knew Trump was racist back then. We knew Trump was a pedophile, a sexual predator back in the 80s. In fact, most of the movie villains were prototypes of Trump. You take that weird movie with Leguizamo, the Mario Brothers. That was a Trumpian villain. Everybody knew Trump was a villain, and they loved him for it. You know, and name a black man you like. Name a black man you look up to. And then all these black men, let's see, Trump and Cosby. No, but Cosby with Bill Clinton. Oh, yeah, we got Trump kicking it with Cosby. I mean, Trump got photo ops. He collects black folks. Name them. So black men have always loved and looked up to Trump before he was president. Come on now. How many rap songs do I have to say that Trump was quoted in, or you got a black rap artist talking about his love for Trump, or how he's living like Trump, or how he ball like Trump, or I'm the black Donald Trump. So I put that on us because we look up to motherfuckers like that. Real talk. And now I guess the young kids, my son's age, maybe I'm Black Bezos. Black men have been doing that shit. Black Mafia family, Haitian Sicilians. How many freaking rappers, Gotti's and Gambino, got Black Mafia names? Scumbag white men, black men have always looked up to and emulated them. Come on. So that's what I put on us. We shouldn't be trying to embody them. That's why I put it on us. I didn't put it on us in terms of us getting him. It wasn't enough black votes ain't enough black men votes to get anybody. If you get the black man vote 100%, that ain't enough to get you elected to nothing. But black Trump, after being president, got more votes than he should have. And throughout his life, he got more love for black rap artists and black celebrities and black public figures and black politicians. You can't find a prominent black person from the 80s and 90s that doesn't have a cheek-to-cheek picture smiling up on Donald Trump. When we should have spit in his face. Can you imagine Trump walking up to shake brother Malcolm's hand? Malcolm would have spit in his face. So that's why I put that on us, because we try to embody. We want to have $1 billion. We want to have a woman that's half our age with big breasts, and we want to be able to say what we want and nobody can hold it against us. We want to be able to mock people and demean people. We want to be able to snap our fingers, and whatever we want is brought to us by servants. I mean, there's a lot of things about Donald Trump that is prominent in hip hop. You know, he don't wear gold chains, but you look at the pictures of his home, the gold toilet and all that other shit, that opulence, that conspicuous consumption. Remember his jet plane? There's skyscrapers with his name on it. Remember, everybody, the world is yours. Tony Montana. And black men been talking about Scarface since the movie dropped, and he got his name right now. I can't even go downtown without seeing that piece of shit, son of a bitch, Donald Trump's name plastered across. You drive down Michigan Avenue and you could be 5 miles from downtown and you got to look at the Trump name. So that's why I put that on us, because we put it on us. Show me a time, tell me a significant segment of black men that reject not just Donald Trump, but what Donald Trump stands for and what he's embodied. Show me. And I'll retract it and I'll apologize to every black man I offended. To myself, living like Donald Trump, but to the people, I'm like Fred Sanford selling drunk above the law. Yeah, exactly. It's too many to relate to. Way too many to even relate to. Come on, don't act like black men been opposition to not just Donald Trump, but what Donald Trump stands for and what Donald Trump embodies. Where y'all at Facebook? I haven't gotten any input from Facebook. So if you're on Facebook and you have a question, uh, the topic is manhood and black manhood and masculinity, but you can ask questions about anything, current events, historical things, and whatever. You know, I'm really into. I'm legitimately allowed to speak to, or my expertise in public policy and politics and history. But you know, I'm a black man, so I know everything. Uh, Let me stop because people think I'm anti-black man. I'm the biggest champion. Some of my best friends are black men. So I'm not anti-brothers, but you know, sometimes, you know, I'm harder on us because I expect so much from us, and I have so much, you know, enthusiasm for us. So um I apologize for that because I know I get called a simp, and y'all go at me. And excuse me, I don't have my tea here because I was running late. Y'all know I got started a little late. Um, um, but anyway, sorry. Let's go on. Let's go on. What's going on in Senegal? Senegal is a neo-colonial um, condition where the puppet regime of there's two alien influences or two alien powers that basically control Senegal's economy. Economically, Senegal is controlled by the French. Uh, Culturally and theologically, Senegal is controlled by Saudi Arabia, the Saudi autocrats, Islamic imperialism. So you got European, French economic imperialism, and you got Arab, Islamic, cultural imperialism. There's a really good book that talks about that condition called Silent Terror, about slavery, where there are literally many of the slaves come from Mauritania and the Sahel region, but there are many Arabs. Like you go to Senegal, and you will find Arabs sitting in the. You go to the markets in the stall, and I read this from Samuel Cotton, who went undercover as an investigator, but also Dr. Clark and others, and even you can look if you're willing to go back far enough. Um, um, Al Sharpton went to Northern Africa and to Islamic Africa and bought slaves and then freed them when Sharpton was on that, back when he still had the was fat and had a perm. So anyway, the Senegalese people are being exploited and they're fighting against neo-colonialism. Their president is a puppet. Shoot, what's his name? Uh, I'm sorry, I have to look up the president. He's a French puppet. What is it? I don't even know his name, but I know he's a puppet. Sorry. Yeah, Macky Sall. Macky Sall. So anyway, in Senegal, they have where the Western world has had an. Remember, they used to say when white folks have a depression, black people have a panic. When white people have a recession, black people have an economic depression. When white people have a depression, economic depression, black people have an economic panic. So Senegal is undergoing both ecological and ecological erosion, and their fishing ports are being robbed by big freighters from China and French Navy, and they got a lot of economic issues. And the president is not addressing the people's needs, people's starvation. They got Arab slavers there, you know, working the market. The economy is dominated by the French and outsiders, and they can't get any recourse from the government. So they want to overthrow the government and bring true democracy. Um, that's it in a nutshell. Pretty much the same as everywhere else in Africa, to some degree or another. Um, let's see. I should probably read. Why do some black people think that black people can be racist? is there a form of black racism? Racism, black people can be prejudiced, meaning that a black person can say, I don't trust Chinese people. A black person say, I don't want no white folks moving into my neighborhood. That is prejudice. Well, it's really not prejudice because prejudging, black people have had generations of experience and interaction with white people. So if your conclusions about not wanting to live around white folks, or if you're in Nigeria, or if you're in Kenya and you're saying, well, I don't want India businessmen or company or interest from India or China making headway in my nation's economy, that's not really prejudice. That's what's called a critical assessment. That's called common sense. But that's on a larger scale. But on an individual level, if I'm walking down the street and I see an Asian person and I'm like, oh, they're a coronavirus, then that's prejudice. That's not racism, because racism is the oppression and exploitation of a group based on their race. I'll say that again. Racism is the oppression and exploitation of a group based on their race. In order to exercise racism, you need control of the infrastructure, the economy, the government, the apparatus of the state. Better have a military too, because if you're going to be racist without a military, you ain't going to be racist for long. You're going to wake up with your throat cut. Or like my aunt used to say, you're going to wake up dead. So black people can't be racist. We also know that black people don't have a proclivity towards racism, because if we read our history or look at the modern era, when black people do get control of the state, whether you go to South Africa, when the black Africans took over as the majority, you go to Haiti, when they ousted the French and fought off all the French's allies to set up a black republic, when you come to Chicago, when what's the I don't like this guy. Everybody here loves him. Don't tell anybody. If you listening, don't tell anybody in Chicago. But Harold Washington is a hero. I don't respect Harold Washington. I don't think he was good for black Chicago. But even when Obama or Harold Washington or Lightfoot, when black people have gotten in positions of power and authority, there has been no evidence that black people have begun to mobilize or organize our power to engage in race-based exploitation and discrimination and abuse. So not only is there black people lack the power to be racist, when we get the power, we do not conduct or set up racist behaviors. And in fact, it has been shown, whether it's South Africa or anything, black people are what is called xenophilic, meaning we show more love and compassion to the other, more so than xenophobic, than hatred and distrust of the other. Dr. John Henry Clarke said, when you look at a people's greatest characteristic or their greatest feature, on the flip side of that coin, you see their greatest vulnerability or their greatest shortcoming. So because black people were able to be open, African civilizations flourished, because if you look at like the Indus Kush or the Dogon, black people have always been open to strangers, to new ideas. If you look at our religions, they're very malleable. If you look at our cultures, they're very malleable. If somebody has something to come to share with us, if you play an African drum, you can play an African drum with almost any other instrument. It represents our nature, that it just gets along. There's this cool video of this Indian drummer and this African drummer just vibing together with two different instruments from two different continents and two different cultures that just mesh and sound like they've been playing together for centuries. So black people, not only can we not be racist, we have not shown the proclivity or the instance or the tendency to be racist. Throughout history, we are and have been, as in even other people, Europeans, when black people were emancipated in the South, white folks said, when we get these black folks off the plantation, they're going to start hacking us to death. They're going to kill us all. It's going to be another Haiti, because white folks were like, because that's what I would do. They would project that onto us. I mean, the Irish and the British been blowing each other to bits for years, and they look alike. They look just alike. So they thought, hey, they project their sentiments onto us, and we unfortunately project our sentiments onto them. Big problem. We need to stop that. But we can't be racist. We don't have a history or a tendency towards being racist. In fact, we're a little too anti-racist. We're a little bit too xenophilic. We need to chickadee check that. I ain't saying we should go all the way to insane and xenophobia like white folks or pathological insecurity like white folks, but we need to, let our history inform our actions. That's why we can't be racist, and we haven't been racist, and that ain't who us. That's a white, like nuclear bomb. If it wasn't no white folks on the planet, certain things wouldn't be on this planet because other people just don't have that mentality. But I digress. Then you ask, why do some people think that black people can be racist? Some black people think black people can be racist. There's a number of reasons. One reason is they're ignorant. They don't understand the nature of racism, so they confuse it with prejudice. They confuse it with hostility. They think that racism is an individual practice or behavior. A racist cannot engage in racism without institutions. So I grew up in Missouri. I grew up in the housing projects of Missouri. The housing project I grew up in on 75th and Monroe, just off Prospect, there was a landfill. They put the black community literally almost on top of a landfill. Me and my friends used to go through the train tracks, cross the railroads, and right next to the landfill was a truck yard. It's still there. The landfill has been filled in and buried, and they've moved it somewhere else. But when I was coming up, some days that wind would come in right through the hood, But anyway, on the other side of that landfill was the poor whites in Raytown, on the other side of Swope Park in the landfill, out by Bannister. And there were poor white people. And even my uncle used to tell me when I first became a militant pro-black, and I'm like, the white man oppressed us. And my uncle, who was a cop, would say, when I'm at work, a Missouri policeman, I go to some of these white folks' houses and they have dirt floors and outhouses, and I've seen it. I worked at Truman Medical Center, and I had some of those farm hicks from the Ozarks and the rural areas. Sometimes they would helicopter them in because they didn't have trauma centers in the rural part. So I've seen what white poverty looked like. Now, them regular white folks can hate blacks all they want. But until they depend on, they can be racist individually, but they depend on the government and the police department and the local government and the local infrastructure, the economic, the banking system. They depend on those things to carry out their racist views. So black people don't understand what racism is and how racism is imposed. If they think a black individual can be racist, or they think the individual white person is racist, or the individual white person can be racist. But in order for that individual white person to impose their racism, they have to go to the police academy. They have to go get an MBA and become a banker. They have to get elected as a senator or a mayor or a president. Because simply sitting in your sofa in your trailer hating niggers ain't gonna cut it. Ain't gonna matter to any black person. And another thing, that's why trying to get any individual white person to love us. I see these stories about, I used to be a skinhead, but now I'm married to a black woman. That is irrelevant to racism. That doesn't fucking matter. We can't marry or procreate or love our way out of this. Racism is ended when institutions are taken over or destroyed. That's it. It doesn't matter who's feeling. That's why there are a lot of quote unquote good white people who go out and support institutional racism. A lot of good black people. That's why I don't work in healthcare anymore, because I was part of a genocidal infrastructure that I tried to do the right thing. I'm like, I can't participate in this. So because they're ignorant about what racism is, or they've been indoctrinated or propagandized, or because they grew up in a racist system and they have internalized anti-black views. And a lot of black people are cowards. So if they can say everybody's racist, blacks can be racist, then that allows them to not confront our oppression. It's just all bad people, bad blacks and bad whites. I'm free. I'm neutral. So that allows them to be a good black person when they're actually being cowardice. But beyond that, that's my assessment from observation and study. But ultimately, when you find a black person who says blacks can be racist, you'd have to ask them why they think that. Okay. Why do you think that the Black Lives Matter catastrophe brewing highlighted by Grammy spectacle? I didn't watch the Grammys, So you can be, I know about Tamir Rice's mother going in on Mallory. I know about that. But can you be more specific about the Black Lives Matter catastrophe? I mean, I could speculate, but I'd rather speak more specifically to your question. So if you could just give me a little more specific. Uh, what is your view on black men who don't like to be friend zoned by black women? The friend zone, my view on that, let me just answer that simply. My view on that is that those black men tend to be sexist. They don't see, and here's the thing. If you can't be friends with a black woman, then you shouldn't be in a position to be friend zoned. Like, how do you even get that close? Stop being deceptive. You don't have to worry about the friend zone if you're up front. If you walk up to a woman in the club and say, hey, how are you doing? I don't see you anything but as a potential sex partner. I can't have any closeness or intimacy or companionship with you if it does not eventually lead to sex sooner than later. Just be honest, and then you never have to worry about the friend zone. So I think dudes who end up in the friend zones are fucking liars or manipulators, and they're bad at lying and they're bad at manipulating. You know, I've never been friend zoned. I've had female friends, but I assume the friend zone is when a woman engages you or views you as a friend, when you want to be sexual or more than a friend with her. So that's friend zone as opposed to just a friend. So I've been friends, but I've never been friend zoned. But men, if you are afraid, you're like I said, you are a manipulator. You are a man who objectifies women. And it's really easy to avoid the friend zone by simply being straightforward. And you can be straightforward without macking, because you could still got some mac to do. Because even if you tell a woman, listen, I think you're attractive and I'd like to get to know you, but I only want to get to know you to the extent that whatever interactions we have, me taking you out to dinner, us watching movies together, us doing other things together, need to eventually lead to sexual intercourse. And I'm willing to do all things, but my ultimate intent is sexual intercourse. And if I do not get sexual intercourse, I'm going to view the things that I did with you and the time or money I spent on you as being a lost investment. And then even if she says, ooh, wow, okay, I think we have a strong potential for sex, damn near a guarantee. But you still got to impress me. You still got to seduce. You know, you still can get your Reuniti on ice and your Billy D. Williams silk smoker's jacket. You still get to do all your player stuff if you just come through the gate. There have been women whom I've been interested in years ago. Don't listen to me about when I've been married for 20 years, so I really ain't got no game left. So don't listen to me in that part. But I'm just telling you from an old man experience. There have been women I've met, and I'm like, she's fine. I'd like to get to potentially have intimacy with her, and things didn't work out. Sometimes it was me, like, wow, me and this woman are not compatible. One time, my homies, what's up, Rip the Crip, Rip Teeth Fresh, my best friend from childhood, my bestest friend my whole life. And it's lucky you got a friend you've known since y'all were in the second, third grade, and y'all still cool to this day. You know, if there was a Lord, I'd say he blessed me. Shout out to Rick. He probably don't even remember, but he introduced me to this girl. And he said to me, we was at Sunfresh in Westport in Kansas City. He's like, you know, that girl, she's really cute. He worked with her. They both worked together. And he's like, but you know, I'm kind of a hood dude. You know, I'm kind of a real nigga. And you a soft dude. Like you know, look at theater, you watch theater and indie movies. Like you basically said you a punk. And I'm a rough on the edges, but she's fine. So I know she wouldn't like a dude like me, but she's an artsy girl. You go holler at her. And I was offended, but what can I do? So I went and got her number, and we hit it off great, and found out we weren't compatible for many reasons. I was a vegan, and she still ate swine. You know, to me, and I ain't trying to put her down, but she was more into like designer labels and stuff, even though she looked a lot of these earthy, bohemian Erykah Badu girls, They like their crystals, but they like their diamonds too. Like, so we didn't hit it off. But I don't consider myself friend zoning her. I'm like, she's an interesting person. We have a few things in common. And of course, my homie was stereotyping me and her, you know. And so, long story short, she didn't consider it to be friend zone. She took a chance, and you know, we kept in touch. We had a few conversations and it faded. That's not friend zones. That's human interaction. That's human contact. So I don't know. Probably went. But my view on black men who get friend zoned, they're pieces of shit and don't even deserve that. So they should be thankful for it. Women are fully formed humans with interests and ambitions and desires and fears, just like every other fully formed human. And so when you initiate contact with a stranger or someone you know, but you try to move the relationship, elevate it, then you should go with the ebb and flow. And your number one requirement for wanting somebody is that they also want you. And you should be able to not be wanted or not to be desired and not have that transform into hostility or resentment toward the person who doesn't want you, because more likely than not, somebody's going to want you, you know? And so if this woman ends up just being part of your larger social circle, or if you really don't want to spend money on a woman that you don't have a chance of having sex with, tell her up front. It'll save you time and money and save her time. And she probably appreciate it. I don't know. But give it a try and get back to me. I hope you're not one of those dudes of motto. Happy birthday. If you've been out here complaining about the friend zone. I champion because I don't believe feminism will make African women become anti-African, as a lot of people claim. What do you champion? Are you talking to me or somebody else? Okay. But okay, let me say feminism in its truest form is anti-African. And allow me to tell you why. If you look at the history, what they call proto-feminist, feminism came about in the or proto-feminism in the black suffrage, the women's suffrage movement. It is a movement by, for, and of white women. The goal of feminism, whether you listen to Margaret Sanger or you go all the way up to Gloria Steinem, the goal of feminism is for women to secure equality with men. But in the context of equality, they are talking about modern Western economic and political structures. Girl boss, girl CEO, girl generals of the military. So if you look at many of the feminist achievements, you will see that they are also anti-black achievements. For example, the first man to ever grace the cover of Miss Magazine was Barack Hussein Obama. Prior to that, the feminist magazine only, let me pull up the cover. The feminist magazine only featured women, right? And so let's pull that up. This is what a feminist looks like when Obama was. Now, Obama is an imperialist. He's a capitalist. He's a international war criminal. But he's also considered a feminist because, to give him credit, he did work hard. He had some black first in terms of women first. He did work hard to allow women to have positions of authority and opportunity within the systems and institutions of capitalism and global white domination. So if you are a girl boss, a female CEO, or a female president, or we have here in Chicago, a female lesbian mayor who's shattered the glass ceiling for so many, but yet she is still engaged in cover-up of police atrocities. She is still engaged in crimes against humanity. So I would have to say that feminism is anti-African. Now, the only caveat to that is radical, anarcho, anti-capitalist feminism. 99, but these radical, like Rosa Luxemburg, and she was an anarchist, she was an armed revolutionary insurgent. So unless the feminist is a radical, anarchist, socialist, anti-capitalist feminist, if she's a feminist liberal or feminist progressive or the standard feminist like Gloria Steinem, then they're anti-African. But if you look at feminist history, the radical feminists have been attacked by the mainstream feminists. Their agendas have been rejected by mainstream feminists. So I do not support the feminist movement because I believe, not because I believe that it's going to harm African men or that it's anti-African men, but it's anti-African liberation. Look at the prominent feminists. Have they opposed capitalism, imperialism? Have they imposed U.S. agendas throughout the world? Or do they oppose women's exclusion or the lack of women's opportunity to fully and equally participate in those global crimes and to be fully compensated for those global crimes? You can go to my blog at Tumblr/Diallo Kenyatta and just search my blog, feminism. I've been critiquing feminism, but I don't oppose feminism because I think it harms black men or that it's anti-black men. It's not. Feminism did not destroy the black family. Feminism, it did not break up the black family. A black man should not oppose feminism because we think it's a threat to men. We should oppose feminism because it has failed black women. Feminism has taken the righteous anger of black women and funneled it into yet another integrationist dead-end movement, just like the gay rights movement did to black LGBTQ, just like the civil rights movement did to the black masses. And a lot of times black men who are anti-feminists, the way that they critique and oppose feminism drives more black women into the arms of feminism because they critique feminism or attack feminism from a position of sexism, misogyny, misogynoir, patriarchy, and the status quo. So if you're not critiquing or opposing feminism from the far left, from a radical pan-African pro-black woman perspective, then you are an asset to the feminists. Most black men that claim to hate feminists, they are the greatest tool the feminists ever had because they drive black women to feminism through participating in the very acts of anti-woman, sexist, misogynist behaviors and thoughts and ideas. But I'm not sure what you're championing because of that. Oh, wait, I skipped someone. Without Justice asks, hey, Diallo, could you please demonstrate how you use RI and RIC, race, ideology, and class assessment in order to determine who your enemy is? No shit. I don't have to use all that to determine who my enemy is. I determine who my enemy is based on history, based on the current. I guess I use race, class, and history. But race first. I am a Garveyite. I support race first. I think that all of our agendas and all of our plans need to be centered on the race first ideology. And talking about feminism, the gay rights movement, and all the other things, I think the foundational issue that obstructs us from dealing with any other issues that afflict black people are the fact that we're under racial oppression. We're under enslavement, really. Black people are still slaves. Bobby DeWright defines slavery as when all of the institutions and resources necessary for your people's survival are in control of another group. That is the state that black people are in. Even Oprah Winfrey, even Kanye West with his $6 billion. With all that fiat and all the Bugattis we're driving around, we're still in basically a state of slavery, according to Dr. Bobby E. Wright's definition, which I accept. Therefore, if we solve every other problem, if women's lib comes about, gay lib comes about, even environmental, because you can have environmental ecological reforms and still have doesn't affect the fundamental status of black folks. So, look at Hitler. Hitler was a vegan and an environmentalist. Hitler had done more than almost any other chancellor before him to preserve the natural ecosystems. He was an animal rights advocate and an animal lover and a vegan. So, don't think because you see a white folks hugging a tree one day, they won't hang you from it the next day. So until African people are liberated, until the African continent is liberated, every other reform and progress and accomplishment that humanity celebrates, black people will either be excluded from it or our access to that benefit will be dictated and controlled by another group. So we have to say, what the fuck does this thing do for black folks? That doesn't mean you can't be a black environmentalist. I am. That doesn't mean you can't be a black womanist or be a black woman that deals with black women's domestic violence and deals with all these other issues. But as you develop your strategies, your tactics, the reforms you advocate for, the revolution you're going to fight for, you have to always tie it back to say, how does it empower, liberate African people? Claude Anderson made it clear where he talked about vertical issues and horizontal issues. Vertical issues that go up and down are issues that touch everyone. So if you're talking about environment and you have a positive environmental reform, everybody would benefit from that. That's not exclusive to black people. When you talk about women's rights, that's all women, poor women, wealthy women, transgender women, gender nonconforming lesbian women, women who are mothers and women who don't want to be mothers. All women benefit. All women, Asian women. So if you have something that deals with women, it's all women. If you do something that deals with the environment, it's all people. But when you deal with things like decolonization of the African continent, when you deal with aid to black farmers, when you deal with reparations for Africans and Africans through chattel slavery to discrimination and Jim Crow for the centuries of targeted racism, anti-black racism, those are called horizontal things that are exclusive to black. So where things intersect, where women's rights intersects with black issues, where women's rights intersects with environmental issues, that's where black people are the strongest. So in terms of race, that needs to be the foundation. And that's not the foundation in terms of where we stay, but that is the root from which we grow. That is the root. Garvey said race first, not race only. Secondly, ideology is dictated by your goal. What do you want to accomplish? A lot of people will have an ideology and say, well, this is what I believe, and therefore that's that. Your ideology needs to speak to, and ideology can't be rigid. It's no longer, if it becomes rigid, it can't be changed or adjusted, then it becomes a dogma, no longer an ideology. But ideology is supposed to be the collection of views, values, outlooks, analysis that will help you to reach a determined goal. I seek to dismantle globally, completely dismantle the systems and institutions of global white domination and capitalism. I seek to preserve and restore the world's ecosystems and biosystems. I seek to have Africa liberated and Africa governed by and managed by Africans at home and abroad. Therefore, my ideology is revolutionary Pan-Africanism. My economic ideology is socialism. Really my political ideology is anarchism, but I don't think that it is practical to transition from totalitarian and states to anarchy. So I think that it will take time, and literally it will have to be a course of human evolution, social and even maybe biological evolution, before we can return to anarchical relationships. So I am a socialist, and I am for representative democracy to an extent, and even republics and representative democracy rooted in socialist economic development and the distribution of resources. So, but my ideology is informed by my goals. A lot of people will adopt an ideology and then say, "Oh, I'm a communist, so everything has to be Marxist, Leninist, communist." So my ideology came to me based on what I want, the world I want to see. It's developed from the world I want to see, not necessarily I get this ideology and I impose it on the world. The conditions of the world help me to develop my ideology. And in terms of class, I think that's one of the areas that when you're in the United States that break down the least. I think that after race, class, you must have got this from me because I always talk about race, class, ideology are the first things you have to consider. Black people who have elevated to a certain status within this system, this economic system, the Negro elite, the black bourgeoisie, the house niggas, as they said, they align with white elites, and they should be identified as our enemy. And unfortunately, a big obstruction to black revolutionary development and black revolutionary struggle is the fact that black people hold black elites in reverence. I'm not saying you can't enjoy Beyonce and Jay-Z's music. I'm not saying you can't vote for Barack Obama. I'm not saying you shouldn't. Yeah, I am saying that. You should have not voted. Shame on you if you voted for him the second time. I understand and sympathize with the first time. Second time, no excuse. But I understand us can look up at a black person who can come up in a racist system and secure the bag or achieve things. But we should have deep-seated distrust of black people that have wealth. There should be a deep-seated distrust. And our loyalty and support for them outside of them dancing or dunking basketballs should be rooted in they should be guilty until proven innocent. Their willingness to commit class suicide, to subvert the interest of their class in the interest of their race. And any black wealthy person who has not, and I don't mean no motherfucking open schools or giving out turkeys. I ain't saying, listen, if LeBron James came here tomorrow and was giving out tofurkey, I wouldn't go for turkeys. But if LeBron James came to the hood tomorrow and was giving out tofurkeys, I'd go get him. If LeBron James was giving out his sneakers tomorrow, I wouldn't get him, but I'd send my son to go get him some LeBrons. I ain't saying black people shouldn't accept it. But what I always say, when Reagan proposed trickle-down economics, black people were enraged. Like, how dare you? Trickle-down economics is inherently unjust and it won't work to elevate the oppressed masses. But then when wealthy blacks do trickle-down economics, we do the Holy Ghost dance. And all the trickle-down economics is a minor redistribution of wealth. Ain't nobody worked. Ain't nobody earned $1 billion. No one has earned $1 million. If you got millions of dollars, you got it through exploitation. All millionaires and billionaires are fucking parasites, and we need to look at them as parasites, even if you enjoy their music. And whatever we can do to subvert them, black or white, whatever we can do to subvert the economic elite, we should be organized to do it. So class solidarity needs to follow racial consciousness, and cultural unity needs to be followed by class consciousness and class solidarity. And your ideology needs to be one that gets you to your goal. So if someone's telling you their ideology, but they can't tell you their vision for the world, then you got to know their ideology is not truly an ideology. It is their dogma. So I hope I spoke to your question. Let's see. Where am I? I don't know. I hope I answered your question. I was told I skipped ahead. Oh, so okay, let's go back to this. Women oppression in Africa is really bad, especially among Islamicized Africans. It is so bad, I feel like I have to champion the feminist movement in Africa. But most Pan-Africans are in anti-feminism. Well, I agree that women's liberation and women empowerment needs to be accomplished. But if you really follow the pattern of feminists in the United States, what feminist movement has got us in the United States is I worked in Rikers Island for 3 years in the infirmary, and 80% of the COs were black in Rikers Island. I don't know now, but back when I worked there, 80% of the COs were black. That wasn't even many of the wardens. They had like three rankings of wardens, like the warden and then the subcommandante. I don't know, but you would have like they had military ranks essentially, and of those, 80% black. I'd say about 30 to 40% were black women, and those black women were brought into. There was a time where women weren't allowed to police the male prisoners, and the male prisoners weren't allowed to work because you have one female jail in Rikers Island called Rose M. Singer, but it's one jail, so um, they put the female adolescents and youth offenders and the adults together in Rose M. Singer Center, and then the male youth had their own house. But long story short, I saw that the women COs and the female wardens were just as sadistic as the males. There was one time where they had the SHU, the segregated housing unit, and they because the inmates can't see you in the SHU, but you can see the inmates. So if there's a CO walking the walking the line to check the cells and see if they're committing suicide or if they have or attempting to harm themselves or have contraband. So she was walking in an isolation unit, and there was this prisoner who couldn't even see what was going on outside his cell, the way they have it set up. And he was in there masturbating. So she went and got a high pressure hose because she was offended that he was in there masturbating and she had to see this. She went and got a high pressure hose and turned it on in the cell and was spraying this man like, old civil rights shit. A black woman, not only a black woman, but a black immigrant. I think she was from Trinidad, or her parentage was. She was a less than a one generation immigrant. And she sprayed him with a high pressure hose. I don't know how long, but it was enough that he had some respiratory issues and some potential fractures. So they brought him into the infirmary and they dropped him on my table, handcuffed, and they were going to violate him. And so because I was doing x-rays, the female CO had to stand behind the leaded glass, and there were a couple of other female COs accompanying her. And she was describing what she did to this man. Like, I don't see it. If I catch that, this is what I do. And the other women were laughing. Very sadistic. And then I went to fortunately he didn't have any fractures. I'm not sure about the respiratory issues, but he didn't have any fractures, just some bruising. I went to the head of the clinic and I informed him, like, I think this was a violation of his rights or something. I think somebody should look. And he basically told me, you better keep your head down and then don't, because you're a civilian in here and you can get it too. They can set you up. So don't be making waves, make your money, get the bag and go do you. So anyway, I saw that women in positions of authority under an oppressive system become just as sadistic and hostile and abusive. We don't even have to go to those. So look at Golda Meir. Google Golda Meir in Israel, prime minister. Go and look at Janet Reno or Madeleine Albright. These are famous feminist icons. These are some women. One of those women said, women who don't support women deserve a special place in hell. Hillary Clinton, we all know. Margaret Thatcher. All these female cops, female CEOs. Go back and look at the Abu Ghraib pictures and the female soldiers there. So to quote unquote give women equality, to give women equality in an unjust system, or as I always say, equality with your oppressor makes you equal to your oppressor. I don't think that's the goal. I think that is a horrible mistake to make. And that's what feminism advocates. So if you must use the feminist title, you have to say radical feminist. You have to say anarcho-syndicalist feminist, the most extreme left form of feminism. But I say, look up, it came out of a black scholar out of Washington University in St. Louis. Look up Africana womanism. A lot of black feminists that I've talked to that have educated me and that I have been able to share my points of view, many of them step over to become Africana womanist. And Africana womanist is a liberation movement that seeks to empower black women and to end the abuse of black women, and also give the women the tools and assets they need to liberate us collectively, not to have them join or have a greater position within the systems of oppression and domination. So now I understand. So I think Africana womanism is a better tool that is proven, not because feminism historically is also proven to exploit black women and then dump them when they were done. How much do you know about Boko Haram? Man, some of my good brothers and sisters live and function in Nigeria, but I think that Boko Haram is basically a death squad. Whenever you have an uprising for, but just before the emergence of Boko Haram, there was a lot of, and still are, um, uprisings throughout Nigeria. Nigeria is one of the wealthiest. I mean, they are the giants of Africa in terms of the resources of the people and the resources of the land. So some of the greatest physicians in the world come out of Nigeria. Some of the greatest mathematicians in the world come out of Nigeria. Some of the greatest artists in the world, Afrobeat, Fela and Seun Kuti, come out of Nigeria. So Nigeria has been a model of even the great, what's his name, Kwame Nkrumah, and also what's the other brother, Patrice Lumumba. Many great African anti-colonial African leaders understood that Nigeria would be a fulcrum, a linchpin for not only decolonization of Africa, but for the ultimate development of a United States of Africa. So Boko Haram, if you notice that when a place has a potential for to uplift, to organize, to become powerful, there's always, it happened in Latin America, these death squads, or these people who rose up out of the population, supposedly, that began to inflict atrocities on the population. So you had, what's it called? The Sandinista guerrillas, the right wing guerrillas. So I think that Boko Haram, there are a bunch of nutcases, but I think the reason why they're so entrenched and hard to uphold, because I believe that foreign powers and foreign interests are giving their indirect or tacit direct or direct support for Boko Haram. I believe that they are a disruptive element there that is operating to as just another grouping that is there to disrupt Africa's or Nigeria particularly, but that region of Africa specifically unifying and developing. And it's not really hard to get people, men who hold to the Islamic philosophy, to do harm to Africans, because Africa has been under attack by Islam since it was first introduced. You know, if you read the research, and Muslims really hate it. I mean, one time Dr. John Henry Clark was said that if he's going to give a talk on Islam in Africa, he would need 6 bodyguards and a 6-pack of beer, because he would need the 6 bodyguards because the black Muslims would come after him, and he would need a 6-pack of beer because it's such a tragic, painful story of torture and murder and mutilation and rape, that he would need the beer to drown his sorrow. So one of his quotes that I've never forgot, he was like, if I'm going to give a talk on Islam's history in Africa, I need 6 bodyguards and a 6-pack of beer. So, you know, and people say I'm anti, and I don't support persecution of Muslim people because they're Muslims. You know, and I have some friends that are Christians and Muslims. I have nothing against black Christians. I have a lot against the religion and history of Islam, the teachings, the dogmas that are embedded, the Quran and the Hadith. I have a lot of issues with that. But I think Boko Haram, if they were truly an indigenous threat, they could have been dealt with. I think that there are some I think that they are there as controlled opposition and disruption. I'm tired of excuses. Africans have to figure out how to win just like everybody else. Who's making excuses? Here's the thing about Africans. When you look at the timeline, and shout out to brother Cam for this. I went to the Amos Wilson study groups at the what do you call it? God damn. It's sorry. Like I said, I don't have my caffeine injections here, so if I become a little loopy, I don't have my stimulants with me. The Jacob Carruthers Center used to host the Amos N. Wilson study group, and one night I went to the Amos Wilson study group, and one of the organizers, Brother Cam, put up a timeline. He drew a black line on the board. And in that time, he basically broke it down in proportion how long Africans lived in freedom and sovereignty and empowered, how long Africans have been under colonization and enslavement, and how long it has taken Africans to transform our position in the world. So first of all, we have the oldest civilizations. We have been free as a people with language, culture, arts, technology, longer than any other identifiable civilization on the face of the earth, number one. Number two, Africa spent the least amount of time under direct colonization than any other region in history. So Africans have recovered from direct colonization. Europe, Great Britain, held its French colonies until for 800 years. They didn't colonize Africa for 800 years. Not one African country remained under colonization for 800 years. Hell, even if you identify the lands occupied by the Arab invaders, that ain't even 800 years old. So Africa, but sub-Saharan or quote unquote Black Africa, spent less than 100 years under direct colonization. Africans, look at, you know what a slave came from? That comes from the word Slavic. A European slave is a European concept. European serfs and peasants, in terms of, if you look at slavery, a person who's in a position where you're owned, you're tied to the land, where the landlord, the lord of the manor, can beat you, take your life, rape you, sell your children off to another lord or nobleman. That condition that I always say, when Europeans left Africa, when Europeans left the shores of Europe to come to the so-called New World and the Dark Continent and go to Asia, they left Europe already having mastered slavery, systematic rape, colonization. Everything we think that is so horrendous about European age of exploration, they learned practicing on each other for generations. They didn't get to Africa and be like, oh, let's do this thing called colonizing. They had already been colonizing their neighbors, taking over the land and raping the resources of their neighbors for centuries, other white folks. They didn't come to the United States and say, or the Americas and say, oh, let's systematically exterminate these people. They had already systematically exterminated populations in their own country. So, understanding that, white folks lived under slavery and ownership, man of ownership, longer than Africans did. So if you look at the timeline, Africans are progressing in terms of going from chattel slavery to second-class citizenship, Jim Crow, to the state we find ourselves now in our conflicts with the state, with the police and the infrastructure, in terms of securing our reparations and development, in terms of going from where it's illegal for Black people to read to having 90% literacy or more. Africans are progressing from the state of slavery and oppression much more rapidly than any other population that came under slavery and oppression historically. And in fact, every liberation movement you look at, from Latin America, from the Caribbean, Haiti, Cuba, Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh, the father of the Vietnam liberation struggle and decolonization struggle, was a student and a member of Marcus Garvey and a member of the UNIA. So not only have we been doing our liberation struggle effectively for generations, we've inspired every other main movement of liberation. So I don't know what the fuck you talking about, Black people making excuses. And you need to look at this from a historical timeline, because if you only look in your limited lifespan, this is a multi-generational struggle. It is a multi-generational struggle. And even though this might sound weird coming from me, the only issue is, because again, Black people are making phenomenal progress in that context. If you could, in a comparative context, neocolonialism is already being struck and attacked. We got uprisings from Senegal to Haiti to Nigeria. South Africa beat apartheid, and now they got Negro elite stabbing them in the back. But the struggle continues. So if you or as who said it, that we have to it's basically the baton was passed to us. And as Del Jones said, revolution is not an event. Revolution is a process. Revolution is a process, it's not an event. So if you ever find yourself getting discouraged or talking about excuses, I don't know what the fucking excuse is. Oh, they're murdering our children. The cops are killing us and getting away with it. That's not an excuse. That is a fact, a verifiable, videoed, recorded fact. So I don't know what you mean by excuses. Maybe you can tell me excuses you seeing being made. But anyway, things are progressing. But the problem is, here's the problem and why we have to accelerate, and we can't accept this rate of acceleration anymore. It is simply because, for the first time, our oppressor has the capacity to destroy the life-sustaining ability of the world. They have the ability to destroy the life-sustaining capacity of the world. Now, that's something the Haitian revolutionaries didn't have to worry about. That's something that SWAPO and ZANU, they didn't have to worry about those things. Even though global warming has been around since the 20s, we're at the point of total ecosystem collapse. That's why we have to destroy capitalism and global white domination today. We have to accelerate it. We have to even do better. We've been doing great, but we got to do better than great. But I don't appreciate that shit talking about black people making excuses when we're talking about atrocities committed against us. Fuck that shit. Don't talk like that. Anyway, let's end on that happy note. I'm sorry, y'all, but it's a little late. I was supposed to start at 9 and end at 8. I've gone a little bit over. I appreciate everyone's questions. I apologize if I skipped your question or didn't get to your question. But we will be doing this Wednesday. Hopefully I'll have a guest. I had a guest lined up, but I had to cancel that guest, and I didn't want to call them on a short notice. I want to give them a little time. So I will be contacting Dr. Ahmad Washington to see if he's available. I've also had some other guests that have agreed to come on and do a Q&A. Some really good brothers, scholars, and sisters. Even Dr. Africa has agreed to come on and do a Q&A. I don't know when. She's like, well, we're going to be together the rest of our lives. We got time. So it's going to be hard because she can keep putting it off since that's her excuse. But anyway, I really appreciate everyone's questions. I hope that I did to the best of my ability. I like this new screen share option. I think it's really cool. And if you have any question and answer focus that you'd like to suggest, I'm open for and down with suggestions. So it's BroDiallo. Oh, let me put the thing on the thing, because I know Chauncey's watching. He gets mad because he, if I don't, boom, there it is. Whoop, there it is. That's where you can support the BroDiallo show radio broadcast. I do a radio broadcast. I have had some setbacks due to the coronavirus, but the Q4 radio staff and managers are working to get the radio station open, but I'm able to do remote broadcasts from home until it's safe for the station to fully reopen. But so you can support that. We do the Q&A, the book review. We're ready, going to have that hopefully by Friday, but by the weekend, the latest, Black on Black Violence, and then Who Stole the Soul. So I got 2 books in the bank that I need to edit and get them out to you. So there's a lot going on. If you want to support revolutionary, progressive, radical, uncompromising media, because I ain't gonna get no commercial sponsorship with the analysis and conclusions that I articulate. So it's up to the people to support. If you don't have the money to support, you can always support as being what I call an engaged or active listener, liking, sharing, and subscribing, and send this video and other BroDiallo content out to your friends, allies, lovers, and enemies. So that's it. And so we're going to go out, and I'll see you guys Monday morning. And we're going to be talking about African spirituality, whether or not it's as good or better or worse or just like Western religion and theology. Peace.